Hello chess friends, and welcome to Jozarov's chess channel, and welcome to my best chess games of all time series. So in this series we're seeing the best chess games that have been ever played in chess history, and today I wanted to show you tactical beauty played by the legendary Vassily Smyslov. So the game was played between Mikhail Botvinnik with the white pieces and Vasily Smyslov with the black pieces. The game was played in the World Chess Championship in 1954. Although here I wanted to show you a great win by Vassily Smyslov. Vasily Smyslov didn't become the world champion in chess because the result of their 24 games was 12 to 12, and well, the rule was that the challenger had to win the match game against the world champion. So Vasily Smyslov made only a draw, but I think it was really an unfair criteria. They should have maybe made another criteria added into the World Chess Championship, because I don't think that the world champion should stay if he only made a draw against his challenger. So I don't think that really this rule was fair. I think that Vasily Smyslov could have get some other chances to win even this world championship in 1954. Once I read a very great article about Vasily Smyslov. He said one time that you cannot simply have your playing style just by following one particular player. It's really true when you better think about it. You cannot just watch Mikhail Tal games and form your chess style simply by watching one particular player. You have to also watch Karpov games, like positional games, and only like Alekhine games or Capablanca's games, because in order to be a great chess player, I think you should follow many of these top grandmasters that were playing in the chess history. So let's see the game from this World Chess Championship in 1954 with the white pieces. As I said, Mikhail Botvinnik, the former world champion, against Vasily Smyslov. We have here d4, and one of the most popular openings back in the 50s, also back in the 60s, was the King's Indian, which was played by Vasily Smyslov. Knight on f6, c4, and now we have the King's Indian with g6. We have g2, we have the fianchetto variation, or the so-called Carlsbad variation, bishop on g7, and now bishop on g2. The castling, knight on c3, still common theory of course, and now d6. One of the ideas of blacks is to play something like knight on c6 or knight on d7, cracking the position here with the move e5, because white will try probably to coordinate a very nice central control with his three pawns. So one of the main ideas of the King's Indian is to crack the position with the move e5. So knight on f3, we have knight from b to d7, castling, and now comes this move e5. So d takes e5 leads really into an equalized game. Knight takes on e5, you can try knight takes on e5 after d takes e5, queen takes on d8, queen takes on d8, but it's, I think, not a problem after knight on d5. Again, knight on d5, this is really a boring game. I think after c takes d5 we can try something like, I don't know, bishop on g4, bishop on f5, or even bishop on f8, cementing this pawn, and then try f5 ourselves. So I don't think that white has too many chances here, so that's why e4 was played by Mikhail Botvinnik. So now comes c6, also common move in these types of variations, because this c6 always prevents this knight to jump in the center on d5. So after a potential, again, clarification or in the center, after knight takes on e5 and similar ideas, after queen on d8, you see, after rook takes on d8, again, we're not allowing this knight to jump here on this very active square on d5. But again, in this position, even white doesn't have any winning chances. I think this game would end in a draw. So in the game, bishop on e3 was played by Mikhail Botvinnik, which is a provocative move a little bit by white, forcing black to do his knight on g4 move, like Vasily Smyslov did in the game. But always there is this problem after bishop on g5. White's idea is forcing you to play the move f6, weakening the pawn structure around your king, and basically after something like bishop on d2, you cannot play this common f5 idea, because the center is still not fixed. We are waiting white to fix the center, then an early f5 would have been very good. But in the game, Vassily Smyslov played the best move, I think, queen on b6, attacking both of the pawns, also the pawn on d4 and also the pawn on b2, because of course white has left in the defense of this b2 pawn. But now the fun starts. The game becomes really tactical, because here Mikhail Botvinnik played the move h3, and it seems now that you have to retreat, that white has solved the problems. But here Vasily Smyslov plays a counterattack with e takes d4. We have knight on a4 attacking the queen. Of course, h takes g4 is not so good, because we have simply d takes c3. If you try b takes c3, it's not about taking this pawn on c3. It will be taken anyway after a couple of moves. The more important thing is that we play the move knight on c5 in this variation, because we want to take this pawn. This pawn is much more important than these two pawns. These two pawns are weak anyway, so they can become an object of our attack when we want to. But here knight on c5 would be very good here, after potential queen on d6, then knight on e4. So in this continuation, I think black has a completely winning game, because in the next move we can take the bishop and continue the game with the bishop pair in an open position. So still we see we have also the weak g4 pawn, the weak c4, and this weak c3 pawn. So I don't think that white has some winning chances here. So that's why in the game Mikhail Botvinnik played the most aggressive line. This similar game was played between Artur Yusupov and Garry Kasparov. If you have followed maybe my series best chess games of all time, you have seen maybe a great game by Artur Yusupov against Vasily Ivanchuk. So yeah, Artur Yusupov was also a very great player in the King's Indian, but also Garry Kasparov, and Garry Kasparov crushed really Artur Yusupov with the black pieces in this particular line. After knight on a4, here Vassily Smyslov played the move queen on a6, with the preparation, of course, after h takes g4 to play b5, because the knight is trapped now. The knight doesn't have any more squares. If you try something like c takes b5, again c takes b5, attacking the knight cannot escape. But now after b takes a4, you see now white problems. We have now advanced pawn. We can also try a3, opening this dark square diagonal, and on the other hand we can also try knight on c5, a very powerful outpost. So in the game here knight on d4 was played, a different move order, but a similar line. After b takes a4, we have knight on c6, and this is now a tricky move here by Mikhail Botvinnik. It seems now that he can of course take the rook after queen takes on c6 and e5. This diagonal is opened, and the rook is hanging here on a8. And it seems now that this is completely winning for white, but there is a problem about this position. If you go with your bishop here on a8, this bishop can be taken after a couple of moves, and you have this huge light core problems. You have also this weak g4 pawn. So you see Mikhail Botvinnik gave up the knight, but here after queen on c4 we have bishop on a8. He gets the rook, but there will be some troubles now in the continuation of the game. So of course knight on e5. This knight comes into the game with the preparation to jump on f3. So here rook on c1 attacking the queen, not a problem. Queen on b4 attacking the b2 pawn. a3, queen takes on b2, queen takes on a4, and now bishop on b7. You see this bishop is trapped, although you can trade it off, but this light square bishop is the key defender of light squares in front of white's king. So you have to have this light square bishop in order to make this game working. In the game rook on b1 was played, and you can guess what Vasily Smyslov would do now, because of course it's one of these games, of this best chess games of all time. He'll sacrifice the queen, of course, with first knight on f3. Here we have king on h1, and now bishop on a8. Great queen sacrifice, but you see now this light square problems in front of white's king, because he doesn't have any more this defender. After rook takes on b2, we have knight on g5, taking another piece. It comes with an attack against the king, and it also attacks the rook on b2. So here king on h2 was played. Maybe a better idea is f3. So now bishop on b2 has to be played, and now after king on h2, rook on c8 would be the continuation after something like f4, knight on f3, and now maybe the king can escape. But again, 3 pieces for the queen in this position. I think again black has a favorable game here. After bishop on d4, you see all of these pieces are really on the best squares, best files, best diagonals, so it's a perfect attack here by these 3 minor pieces. So in the game, king on h2 was played, and now of course knight on f3, attacking the king, again exploiting these light square weaknesses, king on h3, and now bishop on b2. It's now different position, you see, similar, but white hasn't played this very important f3 move. Queen takes on a7, not a problem, because bishop on e4 with the preparation to cement now finally the bishop, or even cement it with bishop on e5, keeping a compact position with our minor pieces and playing simply a dangerous attack against your king. So a4, king on g7, also very nice move, improving the position of the king, so we can play freely with a rook, maybe through the c file, b file, or similar ideas. This bishop is covering the dark square diagonal, so there's no way that this queen will create some perpetual checks. This is why it was very important for Vassily Smyslov to continue the game with the dark square bishop. And you see this queen, although we have the queen for 3 minor pieces, cannot participate in the attack just alone by itself, because this rook can never leave the defense of the king, because then this f2 pawn will become our main weakness in the position. So rook on d1, you see Mikhail Botvinnik is trying desperately to somehow regroup to activate this rook, but now of course bishop on e5, and now all of black pieces except the rook, of course, but the rook can come into the game, are really on the best squares on the board, so they're really an attacking formation. So in the continuation, queen on e7 was played, but this tempo doesn't make anything, because you're just improving the position of the rook, because we wanted to play with the rook anyway in some point of the game. Maybe better way is to play king on g2, again sort of a provocative move to force really black to do something, king rook on a8 and similar ideas. But now after queen on e7, again as said, you're bringing the rook on this most active file. Now it can come into the game through the c file, a5, now rook on c2. See, this f2 weakness, as I said, was too much to handle. This rook can never leave, so that's why king on g2. But again, this discovered check, you see white is simply lost here. King on f1, and now bishop on f3 attacking the rook, rook on b1, and here knight on c6 was played by Vassily Smyslov. It's not about that we want to trap the queen. The queen has some breathing space, but the more important thing is that we want to bring the bishop here on e5, as I said, attacking this f2 weakness. So that was the main mistake by Mikhail Botvinnik. He tried to activate somehow the rook, but it was too late. In this particular position, Mikhail Botvinnik resigned. You see now the possible continuation. If you try something like queen on e8, attacking the knight, but it's really not an attack, because the knight is very well protected. You have this main idea, bishop on d4, attacking this f2 weakness. But now if you try to regroup, if you try to play queen on e1, then we have knight on e5. The knight comes into the game on a better square. We have even possibilities to take now finally this weakness, knight on g4, and again attack this f2. If you try something like rook on b3 to regroup again, to get another defender, then bishop on d5, you see this rook and the queen can never trap these minor pieces of blacks. In the continuation you can try rook on e3, but now rook on a2, again this would be very dangerous, again with the preparation to play this very annoying move, knight takes on g4. If you try here a different line, like in this position in which Mikhail Botvinnik resigned, if you try queen on d7, then again bishop on e4, you see how all of this black pieces are glued together, they're compact, they're protecting each other. Very nice positional game and tactical game by Vassily Smyslov. You can try maybe to play the a6, but now knight on b4 also coming into the game. Now rook on f2, this will be very dangerous here. Rook on g2, we have even immediate checkmate threat. King on h1, and now this double check, it would be game over. So great queen sacrifice for the initiative here by Vassily Smyslov. but he wasn't, after all, the world championship in 1954, but deserves really to be here on this list of the best chess games of all time. I hope you enjoyed this game. Meanwhile, you can watch my other commented chess games from this best chess games of all time series, and you can also watch my commented chess games played by computers with some Lila C0, Stockfish, Alpha Zero, and many, many more. See you soon with some more tactical videos. Thanks you for watching, and chess is the best, of course.